People often ask me, "You always seem so calm. Do you ever get stressed?" Or they react surprised when I tell them about my burnout a couple years ago. They go, "Really? Burnout? You? But you always seem so relaxed." The truth is, no one is immune to stress, and we all experience it from time to time. And when it is acute stress, so let's say we're late for an appointment or we're nervous about giving a public speech, then it triggers our fight or flight response, which is an ancient mechanism that helps us to react quickly in acute situations. When our stress becomes more chronic, so when we're often in that stress response, it can have a negative effect on our well-being, both our mind and our body. And that is why for the last couple of years, I've been learning and practicing with habits to reduce stress in my life and to protect my body and my brain. They say that stress is automatic, but relaxation is not. And boy, have I found this to be true. And if you're anyone who's like a little bit tightly wound like me, you might relate to this as well. It's just not always easy to find relaxation, but there are things that we can do to relax our body and our mind and to create circumstances in our life that make that easier and more accessible to us. So how can we reduce our daily stress levels and manage it better and go from that fight or flight mode into the rest and digest mode, which is a more relaxed state of mind and body? That's what today's video is going to be about. I will be sharing 5 great habits to have less stress in your life and how I personally try to stay out of that chronic state of distress and protect my brain and body from the negative effects of stress. Welcome back, my friends, and as always, feel free to grab something nice for yourself to drink. I have some really lovely green tea here, and this video is actually sponsored by IQ, which is where I always get my green tea from. I'll chat more about them later. For now, let's begin with the first habit. Number 1 is to take things one at a time to reduce overwhelm. The first thing I learned to do when I was recovering from my burnout is to take things one at a time. And this works great if you often feel overwhelmed or like there's not enough time in the day, or if you just feel burdened by all the things that life requires of you. Because life requires a lot from us, and when I think about all the things, then I easily get stressed and it is very easy to feel overwhelmed and like there's no way I'll have enough time or energy to keep all the balls in the air. Just think about it. We need to work and financially be able to make ends meet. We need to clean. We need to exercise. We need to be a good parent or brother or sister. We need to brush our teeth and floss, be mindful of our posture, meditate, make time for friends and family, finally make that picture album, paint that one room, deep clean the fridge, defrost the freezer, do a hair mask, stretch our muscles, breathe better, call our mom, read more books, finally learn to play guitar, use a moisturizer on our feet, go to bed on time. I could go on and on. Or even just a feeling when you know that you have too much to do in too short amount of time. It is very easy to feel overwhelmed and like there's no way that you can do it all. So the trick is to take things one at a time and to not think about the future too much. So instead of focusing on all the things you have to do this week, focus on today. And instead of focusing on everything you want to do today, try focusing on what you're doing now. Because the truth is that life does require a lot from us, but when you take things one at a time, it becomes so much more doable and manageable. So try not to turn everything into huge, insurmountable mountains. Take things one at a time and just trust that the most important things will get done. It also always helps me to slow down when I feel like this, like physically slow down, stop what I'm doing and take 3 nice, slow, deep, conscious breaths. And it might even feel like you don't have time for that, but you do. And if you take 3 deep breaths, it can already start to activate that rest and digest system, which I talked about before and I will mention again later because it's very important. When you feel busy, slow down, because when you slow down, life slows down. And if you're the type of person who watches everything at 2 times speed, try to imagine what you're asking of your brain here, putting all of that information into it at such a high speed. No wonder you might feel tired sometimes. So try to take things one at a time, learn to slow down. Your body and your mind will thank you for it. Number 2 is to make sure that your breaks are actually restorative. We know that our body and our muscles cannot work continuously without a break and that they need rest to recover. But we don't always think of our brain in that way. But our brain, just like any other part of our body, needs rest to recover. There's research that suggests that our brain can perform about 4 hours of deep focused work per day, and even then no longer than stretches of 90 minutes. So if you're focusing on your work, then your brain also needs relief from that to restore and recharge. And here is where it gets tricky for many people, because what do we do when we're on a break? We scroll our phone, maybe check social media, check our email, watch a show or a video, something, and maybe worry about work or things that we need to do later today. And the problem is that when we take a break like that, our brain doesn't get that relief that it needs. So here are a few ideas for having an actual restorative break. Take 1 or 2 minutes to rest your eyes for a bit. So go sit somewhere, close your eyes for a bit, take a few nice deep breaths. Maybe give yourself a gentle massage on the temples or the jaw, or right here, below your ear, which is where the vagus nerve is. Very restorative and relaxing. Just give it a little gentle rub. And this is great if you only have a very short amount of time. The vagus nerve is an important part of our nervous system, and it is one of the things that we can do to help our body go from that chronic stress mode, which is the fight or flight response, into the rest and digest mode. And that is very important for protecting yourself, your body, your mind, your health from the negative effects of chronic stress. If you can, taking a short power nap is amazing, especially in the afternoon. It's not as restorative as deep sleep, but it can definitely help you to rest your brain and your mind for a bit. So try to set your alarm after 20 or 30 minutes so that you don't go into too deep of a sleep, because then you'll wake up groggy. Another great one is going out for a 15-minute walk. It combines physical activity, which is great for restoring the brain, and I'll chat more about that later, with just going out, getting some fresh air and getting out of your thinking mind and just letting your mind wander a bit. Of course, we can't always take a nap or go for a 15-minute walk, so in that case I would suggest having a mindful tea break. One of my favorite things in the world. I talk about it all the time, and there are good reasons for it. Tea is a wonderful way to slow down, because tea takes a bit of time. We need to boil the water, steep the leaves, wait for it to cool down before we can drink it. So if you're going about it mindfully, instead of just chucking a tea bag in and just letting it completely cool off at your desk because you kind of forgot about it. I do that too sometimes. If you're going about it mindfully, it is already a great way to slow down for a bit. So making tea can be a relaxing activity in itself, and of course drinking it, but tea also has components in it that promote relaxation. So for example, green tea, which is my favorite, has a large amount of the amino acid called L-theanine. And I love this because it makes us feel relaxed without making us feel drowsy, and it does give you a bit of energy and focus, but without giving you that jittery or sometimes even anxious feeling that you might get from drinking coffee. High quality Japanese green tea is also an antioxidant powerhouse. It is rich in chlorophyll, which helps to detoxify and is also great for brain health. So just lots of good stuff. So here is where I quickly want to thank today's sponsor, IQ Tea. I've been getting all my green tea from them for about 4 years now, and I'm very honored to be working with them because their teas are the best I have ever tasted. IQ is a small team located in southern Japan, and their mission is to support local producers to help them keep the Japanese tea tradition alive. And you can really taste the work and expertise that goes into making these teas. They are so green, so much flavor, so healthy, just amazing. And right now it's even more special because it is shincha season, and shincha means new tea. So it is made from the new leaves. It is the first harvest tea of the year. It has even more aroma and flavor. It's packed with nutrients. So if you're going to get some green tea, now is the perfect time. So I have 3 shincha teas that I especially recommend. The first is Mitsumi, one of my favorites. This is a deep steamed tea and it is very balanced, very friendly and a little bit sweet. Then there's Atusko. This is a very accessible green tea and this tastes like spring, like it's very floral. It has almost no bitterness. And lastly, Kazuya, which is a competition organic tea. I love the deep flavors of this one. It is packed with umami and a nice sweetness as well. All their teas come with brewing instructions, so anyone can make them. And don't forget, these are very high quality, so you can easily rebrew the same leaves 3 or 4 times. If you're a tea lover like me, I cannot recommend IKU enough, and you can get 15% off your order if you use my code SHINZEN, or if you click the link in the description box and a discount code will already be applied. So huge thank you to IKU for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to how to reduce stress in your life. The next one is to practice mental flexibility. So I believe that a large part of our stress or our unhappiness can come from wishing that things were different than they are. So this is about acceptance and practicing mental flexibility to be open to the idea that some things may go differently than we had anticipated or that we had hoped for. Psychological flexibility means being able to adapt to changes and accepting whatever thoughts or feelings may arise. It is the opposite of being very rigid. So if you are very rigid, you always want things to happen in a certain way, then it can be a huge stressor in your life, and there's going to be a lot of trying to control things that really are not under your control. So whenever something changes or you're experiencing a setback, it really helps to be able to be flexible and resilient and go with the flow instead of having this huge stress response. Research shows that psychological flexibility is a very important component to mental health, and that people who are more flexible and resilient can experience less stress, less anxiety, less depression, and more confidence. It can be as simple as going on a special trip and climbing a mountain, and then when you get there, the weather is bad and you can't go up the mountain. So you could feel stressed and unhappy, but that won't change the weather. So people who are more resilient and flexible will probably just find something else to do, regardless of the weather, and just make the most of their trip. And that way you will experience a lot less stress. You can try doing this with everyday things, just letting go of the illusion of control a little bit and just accepting the way that things are and making the most of them. The next is to get a healthier relationship with your phone. Imagine having something near you that is constantly trying to distract you and get your attention, and that is programmed to waste as much time of yours as possible, that loves to remind you about all the people who are seemingly living perfect lives that you can never match up to, and also about all the horrible things that are going on in the world right now, and that wants to be the first thing you see in the morning after waking up and the last thing you see before you go to sleep. I think you know where I'm going with this, and I'm not here to say phone bad or to make you feel bad about how much time you're spending on your phone. But what I am saying is that if we want to lead healthy lives and have less stress, then it really helps to take a good hard look at our relationship with our phone and to set some clear boundaries. Both the content on your phone and the act of checking it itself can trigger a stress response and release cortisol, which is the stress hormone. When we receive a notification, we also get a nice dopamine hit, which causes us to act and check our phone. But then our brain wants more dopamine, causing us to constantly check our phone or to keep scrolling for more content, or even feel anxious when our phone is not near us. Combine that with the fact that social media apps and smartphone companies actively use your psychology against you to try and get their phone to be as addictive as possible. You see why it's so important to really be mindful of how you're using your phone and to set some boundaries. The first thing I recommend is getting a phone tray, and it can be any old tray or a box, doesn't matter, but the point is that you have a designated place in your home where your phone goes. So creating physical distance between yourself and your phone, so that you actually have to walk there, use your phone and put it back. so this helps to put you back in the driver's seat. The second thing is to turn down your notifications, as many of them as you can, and at least try to make sure that your phone doesn't make a noise or lights up. Again, this puts you in control again and not the other way around. And the third thing is to try and get used to not using your phone the first 30 minutes after waking up and the last 30 minutes before going to bed. You will start your day so much better and on such a more positive note, and you will also get much better sleep. And the last thing is to consider deleting apps that are making you waste too much of your precious time or energy. So it could be news apps, it could be Instagram or TikTok, it could be Reddit. Reddit is an important one for me. It could be phone games. So really be honest, ask yourself how much time you're spending on these apps, and if you think that that's worth it. And try to get a screen-free hobby, something that really relaxes you. You don't have to use your phone. Maybe it is yoga or reading or art or journaling, whatever you like, and whatever helps you to relax. So lastly, as a fifth great habit, let's talk about some healthy brain habits that have been shown to reduce stress in your life. So I watched a TED Talk from Nikki Korteweg, and I will link that in the description box in case you're also interested. And Nikki mentioned the 4 most important habits for brain health and for protecting your brain from the negative effects of chronic stress. They are exercise, sleep, nutrition, and meditation. I think we all know that these 4 things are very important, but it is tricky because they're also often the first things to go whenever we get really busy or when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. It's like the famous saying, you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes every day. Unless you're too busy, then you should sit for an hour. And while I never like the word should, I really like this saying because especially when we're busy and stressed and tired, we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. So let's go over them quickly. First is physical exercise. My mental health is the biggest reason that I exercise frequently because it releases endorphins, which have a very fast way of working on my mood and helping me to relieve stress. Oftentimes the first 10 minutes are the hardest because I feel tired and I don't want to, and I start hating everyone and everything. But then I move past it and you can feel that shift. You can start to feel the stress melting off. I can start to feel myself working through things, letting things go. And it is an instant mood boost. But also long-term physical activity promotes the production of growth factor, which are chemicals that keep our brain healthy and that protect it from those negative effects of chronic stress. Let's talk about sleep. We all have different sleep schedules. Maybe you have young kids and the thought of getting 8 hours of sleep a night makes you laugh out loud. So try to do your best and get as close to those 8 hours as you can. When we sleep, our brain reorganizes itself and gets rid of toxins. And we know from research that people who sleep less than 8 hours a night are more likely to experience stress and overwhelm. My boyfriend recently switched jobs and it has really changed our rhythm a lot. I am now getting up at 5:15 a.m. 4 days a week, and I am really starting to notice the importance of getting enough sleep. So I am trying very hard to get that back on track and make sure we get our 8 hours. Let's talk about nutrition. There's a lot to say here and I can't go into this too deeply because there's not enough time. But as best you can, try to eat fresh fruits and vegetables. Healthy fats are great for the brain, so things like olive oil, avocado, and chia seeds, and also matcha or other types of green tea. And lastly, meditation. Daily meditation, and it doesn't have to be long, can help to increase attention and focus and decrease stress and anxiety. And I always forget this. I always think like, I don't really need to, like I'm mindful enough, but I do. Meditation really is magical. The important thing is to try and find a way that makes it easy for you to incorporate it into your daily schedule. And again, it doesn't have to be long, a few minutes is enough. I am back to meditating daily now. I always have a couple months like on and off, when it comes to meditation, but I'm back on it, and I am meditating for about 10 minutes in the morning before I start my work, and then a couple of minutes in bed before I go to sleep. So I did a lot of research for this video, and I know it was a huge amount of information that I'm telling you here, so feel free to give the video another watch if you want to kind of like repeat certain things. I'll make sure to use video chapters. But I think the most important thing to remember is that stress is a natural part of life and we all experience it sometimes. If it becomes chronic or like very frequent, it can get a little troubling, but if we do our best to take good care of ourselves, both mentally, physically, and emotionally, we can help to protect ourselves from those negative effects of chronic stress. And I would love to know from you, what helps you to relax when you need it? I would love the tips, so feel free to share those in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out IQ and get some wonderful, lovely green teas, either for yourself or for someone else, with 15% off. I will leave the links to discount code and also the names of the 3 teas that I recommended in the description box below. And as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you all again, not next week because I'll be taking a break, the week after that. Bye bye. If you like books that make you cry, try reading The Traveling Cat Chronicles, one of the best books I read this year, and it made me bawl like a baby.